Joining us now to talk about this and more is Bryan Rotella. Bryan, do you believe Bryan Rotella is the attorney, founder, CEO of a senior partner of Genco Legal? Coming up next is Teresa Payton, my bad. Bryan, when you look at what China is responsible for, when you have people that lost their lives, can they sue that government?
Well, good morning, Brian. And absolutely, we can sue the government. The problem is standing and proving a case. I think what's really, I don't know what happened, and I'm not going to pretend to be the foreign expert on this, but as a lawyer, I don't know anyone who watched that HBO special a year ago about Chernobyl. There's an eerie connection to this and what happened in Chernobyl. As you remember, the Soviets didn't really tell anybody for days, weeks, what happened there. And if that is what happened in China, there was never any litigation that came directly against the Soviet Union being obviously a communist country back then. In this case, in the world of 2020, with all of open transparency, I have a real belief we're going to get some discovery. I think that's what Senator Kennedy was saying on the lead-in. We're going to find out that this possibly was something that came out of a lab. Long story short, Brian, I think, forget China, I think the World Health Organization and part of what the president may have been setting up yesterday, there may be litigation against them for at the very least being negligent and not doing further inspection on what China was doing.
Right. By the way, China did not even tell their own people for 6 days after the incident. So that we know for sure. Then we have the situation where the World Health Organization covered for them and said in March they complimented them about the way they've handled it. We know how they poisoned 180 countries. Bryan, a lot of people are looking around at what their local government is doing and saying stand in place and understand it. But they have now they're offering arrests. They're arresting people and giving them tickets for throwing the ball around, for jogging in a park, for not wearing a mask. What kind of rights do people have when a situation like when these new ordinances go on the books?
Right now, I think it's a great question because we should have a lot of rights. This is the Constitution getting turned on its head, Brian, and it's frightening for lawyers like me. The Fourth and Fifth Amendment, we all have what's called due process to not have government interference. Let me make an analogy. You know, I like analogies. In the middle of the play Hamilton, if all of a sudden they stopped the music, some character you didn't know who's a governor came on and everybody hid under a box because there was a virus and couldn't come out. That's basically what we're seeing here. And I think I may have shared with you offline a story that really disturbed me here in Florida where I'm based, where an emergency room doctor mom, she's an emergency room doctor on the front lines, her ex filed a lawsuit so that he can have custody of the daughter because he thinks that mom is a risk to the daughter's health. Some judge down here grants the order, separates mom, Dr. Mom, a hero for us, from her daughter, only based on this pandemic, without any evidence that mom wasn't doing all the things that, you know, I work in healthcare, that healthcare providers are doing right now so that they can go home safely, like taking their shoes off at the door, having an extra set of scrubs when they walk in, taking a shower. The idea that we're now separating a mom from her daughter, and that to me is the most special, and I'm sure you probably would agree, of parental rights that we have, the right to be a parent. That is beyond playing catch and everything else. That to me is something that needs to get evaluated, and quite frankly, I think at some point it's going to get litigated.
So it looks like Florida, where you're at, is probably going to be the first to bring back sports. They already welcomed the Wrestling Federation. He said other sports can come down here too. Major League Baseball's talking about opening up a mini season without fans. When you look at people possibly going back to kids, possibly going back to school, college is pretty much they're done for the semester. But are you worried about, is one of the reasons why this wouldn't happen is lawsuits? If a kid gets infected or a teacher gets infected, if they're told to go back, they'll turn around and sue the school?
Absolutely,
or the school
Brian.
district?
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about, and yesterday the whole thing with the president, and I think he uses Twitter for effect more than fact with having authority, and I know you got into that on the show yesterday, supremacy clause and everything. But here, what people don't understand is everything's looked at and evaluated as risk. And there's an agency, OSHA. And OSHA has a general rule that basically says you can't put your employees or people who work for your employees in a hazardous space where they could have serious harm or death. Now, all you got to do is look at a lawsuit that was filed last week, against Walmart, where 2 folks unfortunately passed away from COVID-19. That lawsuit, I'm going to tell you right now, I'd make a prediction that thing goes well into the 7 figures and it never sees the light of day in court. I can imagine that the lawyers like me that are representing, in this case, the school districts and certainly in companies, I got to tell you, I'm working with companies right now, Brian, on policies that are called the virus-safe workspace, so that employees come back to a very new normal where they're going to have some distancing between them. We're going to have a quote-unquote school nurse at offices, is what I think your audience should expect, so that if someone isn't feeling well, they're going to be sent home. Why are we doing all of those things? It's insurance. The insurance will decline a claim if schools, in the case that you're bringing up or in what I'm bringing up, the companies are not mitigating the risk that somebody gets sick over what we call negligence.
Wow. So there's a lot on the line. So there could be a will and there could be a pure intention. But if somebody gets sick, there's going to be legal ramifications, which means most of these schools are not going to take that risk. So in my view, Bryan Rotella, yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it.